In the news this week, understanding secondary homelessness among immigrants. Cultural differences exacerbate Perth's housing crisis. An exclusive interview coming up.
Also tonight, speaking out. Floreat tutor's daughter claims family's calls for help were ignored. Stranded at the airport, Perth travellers caught up in cancellations and delays over plane refuelling chaos. And on Western Perspective, Neil Thomson talks about youth crime and cost of living for the regions in the Battlers series. Plus, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loom and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. Homelessness is rising in WA, and a top multicultural expert has highlighted that immigrants and minority communities are facing secondary homelessness. MSC WA Executive Director Ramdas Sankaran explains that migrants from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds are less likely to turn away families and friends in need, often taking in more people than they can manage, leading to long-term tensions and agencies' struggles to help. He joined me exclusively this week.
We did talk about cultural considerations, and one of that is, broadly in sociological concepts, individualism versus collectivism. So in Western societies, they place a great deal of emphasis on individualism, whereas in most ethnic minority countries, whether they're from Europe, Asia, or other parts of the world, they place a lot of emphasis on collectivism and the extended family in particular. And so there's a lot of support that comes in there. So what happens is when a homeless person with a family, and sometimes with a large family, approaches another person, in the case of mainstream, and asks them to accommodate them, generally you will expect an affirmative, but nevertheless an empathetic response saying, "I'd love to help you, mate, but unfortunately I can't." And they would be as direct as that. Unfortunately, in the case of called communities, that generally won't happen in most instances. So that's where the cultural considerations take over, and they will, albeit reluctantly, take them on. And once they've taken them on, the consequent impact is what I've described already.
In this context, what are your agency dealing with when it comes to cowed communities, homelessness versus white people, and the secondary homelessness?
Yeah, all what I described to you just now are based on practical examples of what's happening within our community. When I say large families are plonking themselves in the homes of other families, that's exactly what some of our clients are doing. So these are not fictional, examples that I'm talking about. I'm talking about real life examples of what's happening.
What's the difference between mainstream homelessness and secondary homelessness, apart from just we all know as couch surfing and multicultural people?
I'm glad you asked that question, Ivan, because I don't believe most West Australians, understand there's a big difference between homelessness as it, impacts the wider communities or the mainstream communities, and how it impacts people of ethnic minority background, or called West Australians as we call them. And the difference is this. Couch surfing on a one-on-one basis is nothing new, but when a whole family moves into another family, and both families are significantly larger than your average Australian family, you have an interesting phenomenon. And the impact of that is something pretty serious. The original family, if it's a rented accommodation, clearly has not mentioned this to the owner, and they then leave themselves in a blacklisted situations where their tenancies can be terminated. So there are very serious issues there, and of course, general issues in terms of mental health.
So how do we deal with it? Because you just talk about not enough funding.
Look at the funding that's made available to called communities to address mental health issues. It is pathetic. I stopped using the word microscopic. I now use the word nanoscopic. That's the amount of money of the mental health funding at the state and national level that's going into what you call multicultural service providers. It is pathetic. So unless we're going to do something there, then you can see the impact of homelessness on called communities is going to be significantly, disproportionately worse than the mainstream community.
Daughter of Floreat shooter Ariel Bombara has spoken out against the WA police, saying her family's cries for help were dismissed. Now she is calling for all Australians to come together and take action against family and domestic violence. Paige Reid reports.
Daughter of Floreat shooter Ariel Bombara says she wants answers as to why her cries for help were not answered. On Friday last week, Mark Bombara shot and killed 59-year-old Jenny Patelchis and her 18-year-old daughter Gretel before turning the gun on himself. The 27-year-old says she warned the police on 3 separate occasions about her father's guns, but all attempts fell on deaf ears.
On each occasion, I alerted officers to my father's guns and told them my mother and I felt there was a real and imminent threat to our lives. I specifically mentioned that there was a Glock handgun which was unaccounted for. My understanding is this ultimately would be one of the weapons that my father used to take the lives of 2 innocent women.
Bombara says her mother and her were left feeling hopeless after 5 male police officers ignored their pleas for help. WA Premier Roger Cook says he has reached out to Ariel and is willing to work with members of the community to solve the issue of family domestic violence.
Look, this is a very complex set of circumstances which led to a crime which took place late on Friday afternoon. So we need to actually allow the investigation to run its course and to get information as that investigation creates its findings.
Ariel says it's time for Australia to come together and actually do something about domestic violence problems facing the state. Paige Reid, WAMN News.
Hi there. Are you looking for a new home or want to refinance your car mortgage to get a better rate? At AA Finance Solutions, we have the expertise and knowledge to help you to find the right loan for your needs and budgets. Contact us today. Let us help you to make your home ownership dream a reality.
AA Finance Solutions, your local mortgage broker.
Passengers were stranded at Perth Airport following the refuelling chaos this weekend. Perth Airport released a statement this weekend blaming the refuelling outage on weather conditions. A spokesperson emphasised that the issue had been resolved and experts will continue to monitor the situation to address any arising issues. WAMN News was at the airport over the weekend as travellers waited to board their planes, with destination notice revealing arrival delays and cancellations. The spokesperson said the issue impacted a number of outgoing and incoming flights, with 59 international and domestic flights either cancelled or diverted. They again thanked both passengers and our airline partners for their patience and understanding.
Around 1,500 cars and trucks took to the Perth streets on Friday morning to protest the upcoming ban on the live export of sheep. Federal Labor's bill will eliminate the sheep live export trade by 2028, an industry which WA plays a significant part in. The leader of the opposition, Shane Love, commented on the bill, saying it's a betrayal of WA, primary producers and the many regional businesses and communities made viable by this trade. The WA Nationals leader added that the method to change this would be to vote in the opposition at the next election. The Keep the Sheep protest, which took place on Friday the 31st of May, occurred at peak hour and began from several different locations, covering the north, south, east and west.
We want to keep the sheep, we need to keep live export. Otherwise farmers will go out of sheep and there'll be a lot less farm.
The government's not listening to the real people, the people that provide food to keep the country going.
Police are currently looking into a fire that occurred at the Mandurah Terrace restaurant and bar. The fire at the heritage-listed venue is being examined by arson squad specialist officers. On Tuesday, the 23rd of April this year, a fire took place at around 5 o'clock in the morning in Mandurah. The fire is believed to have brought about major structural damage and a rebuild of the building is required. Police estimated the damage is around $350,000 and investigators believe the fire was deliberately lit. They would like to speak to the person that appeared on the CCTV footage as he may assist the investigations. Authorities described the person of interest was a man with a hoodie with white sleeves, shorts over bike shorts and carrying a blue type of sports bag. Anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers. Set it up.
This weekend marks International Children's Day, and the Multicultural Lions Club held an event to celebrate the occasion in Myrie. Former New South Wales School Principal Stephen Hall, who served on the Baha'i governing institution at the national and international level, oversaw the welfare and education of children. During the event, kids representing different cultures gave presentations, and a teddy bear collection was organised for disadvantaged First Nations children in remote areas. Both federal and state politicians also attended the event as honourable guests.
So one of the wonderful things that we've done in collaboration with the WA Multicultural Lions Club and the Baha'i community today is to collect teddy bears, which we'll be distributing to disadvantaged children in rural and remote WA. And we're excited by this initiative, and we're also excited to continue to think about how we can support our children to reach their potentials and to really consider them as the treasures of our community.
And now here's Leo Puglisi with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thanks, guys. The top stories we're following on 6 News today. US President Joe Biden urges Hamas to accept a new ceasefire deal which aims to release hostages and potentially end the 8-month-long war. Former MP Fiona Martin announces she's quitting the Liberal Party 2 years after losing her seat, citing experiences with a former MP. And Channel 10 just weeks away from going off the air in Mildura. You can, of course, watch 6 News Live 24/7 on our YouTube channel and our website, 6newsau.com. For now, though, it's back to you.
Thanks very much. And this weekend it's WA Day, but there doesn't seem to be an awful lot happening in Perth.
No, not this long weekend, all thanks to the weather. But having said that, the winter's coming and you can definitely feel it, right? So I understand you wrote an opinion on the WAMN Extra News. Give us a bit of a teaser as to what you wrote and what do you think about it?
Well, it's mostly looking at activities that you can do in Perth over the next few months, like lightscape, but there's also some classic suggestions like ice skating and movie nights. You can read it all and more on the WMN Extra News Club. But right now, here's Paige Reid with Western Perspective.
Thanks, Ivan and Melly. Welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Paige Reid. This week, in the Battler interview series, we turn our focus to the Liberals. With only 3 seats in the lower house and a handful of MLCs in the upper house, the Liberals are the true battlers for the upcoming election as they face the near impossible task of winning government in 2025. With cost of living issues, high youth crime and the abolition of regional upper house seats, Liberal Shadow Treasurer Neil Thomson joins us to discuss the challenges and their focuses for the upcoming election. With the recent electoral changes, how confident are you about going into the upcoming election?
Look, it's as we know, this was wasn't on the agenda of Mark McGowan, and of course he went through and destroyed regional representation. The good thing is that people in the regions have really seen through what WA Labor has done to the regions and the neglect of services, basic health services, the law and order crisis that we have, and of course the housing crisis. And when I go around and talk to people in the regions, I expect there to be a massive backlash, and I expect the WA Labor Party to lose a number of seats in the region. We've got some excellent candidates. Rowena Olsen has been pre-selected now for the Liberal Party for Kalgoorlie, and she's will be a real fighter for that seat of Kalgoorlie in the Goldfields. And of course we've got Amanda Kalis now being pre-selected for, or about to be endorsed for the seat of the Pilbara, and she brings a huge amount of wealth of experience into that region. And of course Mem Baird running for the seat of Midwest. That's going to be an important seat as well. So, you know, despite the Labor Party's sort of aim to manipulate the electoral system in order to set itself its own gerrymander, favouring the Labor Party with urban votes, we now will see, I think we'll see such a pushback because of the neglect we're seeing in the regions. I think we'll see those regional seats definitely go back to the Liberal Party.
There has been a noticeable rise in youth crimes in recent months. What are your thoughts on all of that and how that's kind of been handled? Well,
this soft on crime approach is just not working. We're seeing that the government has failed to invest in the areas of early intervention in terms of the areas of youth diversion. They've been talking about a youth diversion facility in the Kimberley for some time. It's been delayed year after year. It still hasn't been developed. You know, there's been so much delay Even in the development of our prison system, the Broome prison has been delayed, and of course it's important to make sure when people are in prison that they're put in a location that's close to their home and close to their family, so they have the best chance of rehabilitation. We see police numbers at the lowest level in some of these towns, police leaving the force in droves, and this minister has failed to get the extra police that he promised. People are concerned about their safety when in Western Australia, the violent crime rate in Western Australia is twice the national average, and in places like the Kimberley, it's 40 times the national average, and that trend is the same across regional Western Australia. It's a very frightening time for many people to be in their homes and around their communities because of the lack of community safety. This is going to be a major issue in the election, and the Liberal Party will make sure that we have sufficient police on the beat, that we have that our courts deal with the crimes appropriately, and that victims of crime are treated with respect.
In the recent budget that's just been released, there was a $700 credit that was introduced to families. Do you think this has been effective so far?
Yeah.
And obviously from the regional areas, from what you've been hearing, do you think they're getting the full benefits of this credit?
Yeah, so we see, of course, the state government put the $400 credit for electricity credit, and then the federal government topped that up. Now, look, of course, everyone welcomes that. But what we see is real concerns about the future reliability and pricing of our electricity market. I think the people of West Australia will judge the government on their failure to deliver reliable power, like in towns like Kalgoorlie, cities like Kalgoorlie-Boulder, which have had almost 3 days without power when they had that power cut. The failure to deal with the basics, keeping the lights on. We saw that, we know that they have a very ambitious approach in relation to renewable power. This is going to create problems in relation to our reliability, but we saw, of course, the Liberal Party has presented its policy to provide an extra 400 megawatts of gas-fired power, which will provide that important backup to make sure we keep the lights on. So we're committed to making sure that power is affordable going forward. We'll drive towards those important 2050 targets with the decarbonisation objective, but we're going to do it in a sensible way to ensure the lights stay on and our power prices are kept at affordable rates.
Just one last question for you. How is your party going to kind of continue to gain representation in these regional areas? Like, what are you guys going to do?
We've got some really great candidates, as I said. Rowena Olsen going forward in Kalgoorlie. She was a national candidate in the last election, but she's now going to be working for the Liberals, which is fantastic, and we all work together. Representing regional Western Australia, a local champion who's going to fight very hard for Kalgoorlie, and that's that important city of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, the regional area of Goldfields. As I said, we've got an excellent candidate in Amanda Kalis in my region, Mbed. Look, we just are choosing the very best people for the role, and of course the work that the party room continues to do in relation to representing those important areas of law and order, housing, and of course our health system, which is in terrible disarray. Our health system's on life support. We're seeing the failure to see those important projects like the Laverton Hospital, Meekatharra Hospital, Tom Price Hospital. Just go through the list. You could just keep adding to the list. The failure to deliver the most basic services, and this government has been sitting on record revenues, double the revenue from when it came into power in 2017 on the back of all that private sector investment that was put in place by the previous Liberal National Government. Has been a beneficiary of an incredible surge of revenue, but still fails to deliver the most basic services for Western Australians.
And now, here is Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. It's been great to see some wild, wet weather around, and some replenishment of the dams, hopefully, and hopefully not too many people inconvenienced or suffering damage as a result of it. Unfortunately, we are seeing a massive surge of COVID at the moment to add to our start of winter woes. And I think that it's really important that people be reminded about the need to avoid crowded indoor spaces, particularly if you have a vulnerability to the disease, and to get your boosters up to date. Hospitals in South Australia already have switched to elective cases only, and with the reducing number of people who are up to date with their vaccines and the lack of public health leadership telling us all of the important steps we need to take, it's really up to us now to look after ourselves, look after our loved ones, and if you're not going to do anything else, at least wear some sort of mask when you're on a bus or other public transport, because the last thing you want is repeated episodes of this leading to a decline in your health over time. I wish that it were different. I wish that we did have a vaccine that could prevent this from being spread, but there doesn't seem to be much urgency around finding that at the moment from governments, because they prefer to believe the lie that it's all just gone away and we can forget about it. So I don't harp on a lot about it these days, but people have been warned. We do need to look after ourselves and our loved ones. Thanks very much for your time.
And that's Western Perspective for this week. We'll see you next time. But for now, back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Paige. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.